Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Yay! I'm glad to see more men joining us on this channel. And I'm not being derogatory or minimalizing all you women and the few men who had been on the channel all along. But I have always hoped to become more inclusive of both genders as we need to talk and work together for a more just society. Okay, guys, my frustration levels had been slowly rising over the last 2 to 3 weeks as it appears that there are people with selective hearing and reading skills in the actual Mexit group. Now, as you know, I choose not to be a single goal or single aim hate account or whatever Mr. Bosey is calling it. And the reason for it has nothing to do with Mr. Bosey or his followers or the Sussex sugars. I don't fear them as I generally leave them alone to think and say what they want as long as they leave me alone to say and think what I want to. I give them Twitter to blast off on, and I blast off on Instagram, for instance, or on my own website. I do not even watch their channels and don't comment on it, and although a few nasties have ventured on here, I have been able to deal with them one way or the other. Having said this, the reason why I am not and will not in the future only speak about Meghan and Harry, but will speak about other royals is because I believe one cannot and will not come across or prove yourself to be truthful if you do not balance the scale and be fair. Prime example, I may end up heavily criticizing the content of Harry's book, but I am not criticizing him for writing it with the help of Moeringer, as Charles did exactly the same thing years ago. I indeed criticized the content of Charles's book, and therefore I feel it gives me some sort of credence when the day comes to talk about the content of Harry's book. I know it's a silly example, but you at least know what I mean. In my book, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Which brings me to my point and the point of this particular video. I have now spoken about statements Charles and William made about climate change and have explained ad nauseum that my comments were not aimed at the person or even the work they are doing, but at the hypocrisy of it all. But it appears that there are people whose vocabulary starts with and ends with hate. Oh, you hate Charles. Oh, how dare you hate William. Blah, blah, blah. Now, I do not hate Charles. I don't like him much, but hate has not even entered my mind. As far as William goes, I admire him more and more as he matures, and it becomes obvious that regardless of whether I agree with him on everything or not, he is at least trying, and his heart is in the right place. Compared to his father and brother, and at the age of nearly 40, there is very little scandal or controversy in William's life. So, my comments stemmed from the fact that Charles and William often refers to climate change as an immediate and devastating humanitarian crisis. For example, William wrote to Cambridgeshire or Cambridgeshire County and referred to climate change as a devastating planetary humanitarian crisis. We also know that Charles made numerous rather strong and sometimes controversial statements with regards to climate change. At a World Economic Forum meeting in Davos in 2020, Charles referred to climate change as humanity's greatest threat. In November 2021, Charles demanded warlike footing to solve climate change issues. Like I said before, I have an opinion on this almost paranoid fight to combat climate change. And when it comes to me, I prefer the word conservation to climate change, even though I know that it's not the same concept, but I also know that in a way it is still linked. Never mind. That is a topic for another day. Taking William and Charles's words and the way they express themselves when it comes to climate change and the strong language they use when addressing the subject and the manner in which they address our carbon footprint, I don't just find it extremely hypocritical that there are in the region of 22 long distance travel and flights planned for the working royals this year. Actually, it is not just hypocritical, but in my opinion, downright weird. And again, and just to be very clear, I am not critical of the individuals or the jobs they are doing in other countries or the reasons for their visits or the fact that it is the Queen's Jubilee year or whatever you may throw at me. I'm critical of the fact that on the one hand, we have Charles and William using words like devastating, war, threat, and humanitarian crisis in terms of climate change, and yet, on the other hand, approved of nearly 22, if not more, long distance flights for 7 working royals in less than 6 months. So let's have a quick look at what I am talking about. We currently have Sophie in New York, where she is delivering the keynote address at a United Nations event on upholding women's rights in Afghanistan. While in New York, Sophie had a hectic schedule. Not only did she address the United Nations event, but she also visited the Queen Elizabeth Garden in Lower Manhattan and helped plant a rosemary bush in honor of the Queen's Jubilee. She met with consul generals, she met with delegates from 100 Women in Finance, and she spent time with international eye health leaders from UNICEF and the World Health Organization. So, not only do I really like Sophie and respect her work, I admire her for her guts and professionalism. And again, had it not been for the two princes' strong words about climate change, I would not have been sitting here counting the long distance flights of the working royals. But here we go. Sophie will or did undertake at least 2 long distance flights to attend these events. While Sophie was in New York, Prince Edward was in Kenya, mainly to support his father, Prince Philip's work, and to meet with a group of young people who are among the 40,000 currently taking part in the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award. The awards have been around for a very long time, and great work had been done because of it. And Edward is doing a stellar job as its chairman. Edward is a nice guy as far as I'm concerned. Yes, he has his own quirks, but like William, he remains pretty much unscathed by controversy and scandal. But we are here to count flights, so here is another 2 to add to the list. William and Catherine will leave for a Caribbean tour in 2 days' time. The tour will start on the 19th and end on March the 26th. They will start their tour in Belize, where they will visit historic Mayan sites. Then they will head over to Jamaica, where they will have engagements with the Jamaican Defense Force and Jamaican musicians, etc., etc. They will then end their tour in the Bahamas, where they will spend time with communities across a number of islands and experience a Junkanoo parade. During their tour, they will address things like the Earthshot Prize, mental health, and early childhood development. Now, like anyone and everyone, I am looking forward to this. I'm excited to see what Catherine will wear and to see them laughing and interacting with people. But in this video, we are looking at 2 long distance flights and likely 3 short distance ones. So we're talking about more or less 5 flights in all. Charles and Camilla will tour Ireland from March the 23rd until March the 25th. Now, I know these aren't long flights, but let's add another 2 flights to the list. Prince Edward and Sophie will visit Antigua, Barbuda, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines from April the 22nd until April the 28th. Now, not much has been said about this tour and not many details are available, but we are again looking at 2 long distance flights and more or less 5 short ones. Princess Anne will visit Papua New Guinea from the 11th to the 13th of April, and details of her trip is also not clear, but for the purposes of this video, we are adding another 2 long-distance flights by working members of the royal family. In June, Charles and Camilla will attend the Commonwealth Heads of State meeting in Rwanda. Up to 10,000 delegates from 53 countries are expected to attend this year. It is expected that the main discussion would be about ways to address the challenges caused by the COVID pandemic and ways to boost tourism again. And even here, you won't hear any criticism from me on the meeting or of Charles and Camilla attending, but it is at least another 2 more long distance flights. Okay, so my dears, at my last count, I am counting 22 flights in less than 6 months undertaken by 7 people, and that brings us to an average of just over 3 flights per person in less than 6 months. And again, I personally do not have any issue with these trips. I enjoy tracking and watching it. My issue is simply and purely the hypocrisy of the statements made by the 2 princes, particularly in light of the fact that later in the year, William will be taking his Earthshot Prize to the United States and add another 2 long distance flights to the list for 2022, bringing it to a total of 24 that we know of as of today. As a human being, I'm thus feeling that they are talking out of both sides of their mouths when they address climate change as a humanitarian crisis and advising us on our carbon footprints. But you see, that is how I feel, and that is my opinion, and is purely based on the words these 2 men speak and their actions not being in line with their words, and has nothing to do with whether I like them or not, or whether I am in favor of the monarchy or not. But my opinion was blasted with ignorance and statements like, "You hate Charles and you hate William." No, I adore William and had liked him since he was a baby. But I don't have to like or agree with every word out of his mouth, just like I do not have to like or agree with every word out of my own children's mouths. Yet I don't hate or dislike my children, and nor do I hate or dislike William. Some people even had the gall and attacked the fact that I traveled to Canada and spent 3 months with my children there, and used that as an excuse why I should not say anything on the subject of the royals' travel plans. Well, I traveled to Canada to see my daughter, whom I have not seen in 4 years. Before that, I visited Britain in 2014 and 2008. So, how anyone can compare 3 international visits in 13 years to an average of 4 per person in 1 year is absolutely beyond me, particularly in terms of my carbon footprint. I mean, here at home, I live close to town, so I barely ever pull my vehicle out of the garage. I normally just walk to the shop. But I guess that if you don't have a valid argument, you have to grab at anything you can get. But before I go, I have another concern about these travel arrangements of the royals, and that is that William and Charles will be out of the country from the 23rd until the 25th of March. Yes, I know Charles will only be in Ireland, a hop and jump from England, but they will both be traveling at the same time. And that is a little concerning to me in light of what's happening in the world today. Okay, guys, I hope you had a lovely St. Patrick's Day, and I will see you on the next one. But I'll play you out on this video with a couple of photographs of our beautiful Duchess Catherine as she attended a St. Patrick's Day celebration. So, until we meet again on the next video, take good care of yourselves. Bye.